921 click. Mouse grid 8. 258 click. Mouse grid 8. 654 click. Mouse grid. 3 click. Minimize. Minimize. Close. Scroll down. Scroll down. Mouse grid. Cancel. Scroll up. Mouse grid 8. 58. Mouse grid 8. 828 click. Scroll down. Scroll down. Scroll down. Scroll down. Scroll up. Page down. Scroll down. Scroll down. Page down. Page down. Page down. Page up. Page down. 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 Scroll up. Page down. Page down. Page down. Page down. Scroll down. Page down. Switch application. Cancel. Mouse grid. 9774 click. Mouse grid 8. 986 click. Mouse grid 8.
Anything about spinal cord injury at all at the time. Just knew what I kind of learned in school. You learn a lot more once you get out of school in real life. So I started learning. I did look at the presentation I did for the population 5 years ago. Boy, I have learned a lot since then. So this isn't the same thing for sure. I was promoting dietary guidelines and that kind of thing. And there's a whole lot of other nuances to learn. And so my experience as an inpatient dietitian has really helped me. But I also do work as outpatient in the physical medicine and rehab clinic. And that really, really helped me because I could keep following my patients and really tailor and individualize their goals and work with them. Because I feel sometimes as an inpatient, it's really hard to get them on board with nutrition because they're focused on their rehab, they're focused on where they're going. There's a lot of other issues, moving parts going on at the time. So I'm very fortunate that I've had the 6 years I've had to work with spinal cord injury population, and I've learned a lot, and I hope that I'm able to share new information for all of you. So I guess we'll move. Master's in Public Health. So I didn't want another nutrition degree. I already have one. So Master's in Public Health is a little more well-rounded, and it was a good program. So I was.
You can repeat the question, Jody.
Okay. Yeah. Somebody asked me what MPH stands for. So it's a Master's in Public Health. So we're going to talk about why would we worry about nutrition. We'll briefly discuss the chronic diseases that are prevalent in spinal cord injury, and we'll look at different SCI factors, metabolic changes after injury, common fat diets. We'll do a little bit of nutrition 101 about calories, and then we're going to start looking at the caloric density of food. We're going to talk briefly about the considerations of those who are underweight, very brief, but there's a lot of information so that you can take throughout this whole presentation for that. What does a healthy diet look like? Looking at fiber and bowels. This is kind of the crux of my work now. I do a lot of work with bowel. Hydration, we'll look at financial consideration, physical activity, monitoring your weight, and then we can go through questions. We can do questions as we go, though. I don't mind, because I know how hard it is to keep something in your mind as we're going and then you forget. So go for it. Just let me know if you have questions. Okay. So why would we worry? Because inactivity definitely impacts your health. We're looking at short-term health and the impact that nutrition plays on, the short term right now. Long-term health, which is kind of where my work lies in long-term. I did a project for my master's on cardiovascular disease and spinal cord injury, and it is number one risk there, cause of death. So I'm looking at long-term health. Skin integrity, psychological well-being and happiness. This is just a standard statistic, but 43% of adults with depression were obese or more likely to be obese. So mental health plays a huge role. Amputations, and then we'll talk more about other things that are more SCI related, like transfers, weight shifts, equipment, and skin. So risk for chronic disease, we all know that they're genetic. You can't do anything about your genes, unfortunately, but genetics play a role. But what really plays a role is what you do and your environment. So your lifestyle. Smoking is really dangerous. So if you smoke, I highly advise that you quit. And I'm sure if you smoke, you've heard that 1,000 times, but I'll tell you 1,001 times, just quit smoking. So diabetes, I get a lot of new patients on our inpatient unit. Many patients come to me with a brand new injury, and also, by the way, you're diabetic. So I get a lot of diabetic patients on my unit. I'm working with diabetics as an outpatient as well, and it's everywhere. And there are ways to make things better and reverse and get better. But diabetes has a huge risk, and a lot of my patients don't even know what is diabetes. I ask them, "Do you know what diabetes is?" And they go, "I don't have a clue." So, so diabetes actually is glucose, which is sugar. It's a main source of energy for our cells, and the level of glucose is controlled by a hormone that's produced by the pancreas, which is one of our organs. When it's not working right, the glucose builds up in the blood, and that's basically diabetes. And the worse it is over time, the worse you get. And the risks that are associated with uncontrolled blood sugar are heart and blood vessel disease, nerve damage, kidney damage, and failure, eye damage, blindness, slow wound healing and amputation, hearing impairment, skin conditions, and death, obviously. Being overweight is the #1 risk factor. So if you have diabetes in either side of your family, both sides of your family, and you're overweight, you're definitely at a really increased risk of developing diabetes yourself. And then losing 10% of your weight, just 10% can drop or delay your risk for diabetes. It's a huge, yes. Is hormone production affected by physical damage to the pancreas? Yeah. Yeah, if you have pancreas damage, then it can affect your ability to produce insulin and bring your blood sugar down. A lot of hormones are produced by the pancreas, so definitely can be a problem. Does that answer your question? So just losing 10%. So if you have diabetes in your family and you're overweight, it would behoove you to lose just at least 10% of your weight, especially if you have symptoms right now. Ready for the next one. And then the other condition, cardiovascular disease. This is a big one. Cardiovascular disease, CVD, are conditions that involve narrowed or blocked blood vessels. There are a lot of risks for having cardiovascular disease, and they're the obvious ones: heart failure, heart attack, stroke, aneurysm, peripheral artery disease, cardiac arrest, and death. Uncontrolled diabetes, the two go hand in hand, actually. So if you have diabetes and you don't have any heart issues, then the chances are really good that you're probably going to have heart issues as well, because the two are strongly related. And obesity always worsens the progression of heart disease. So losing weight, again, is really important, especially if you have heart disease on both sides and you're overweight. So specifics for the spinal cord population, but I also want to say disabilities in general, you can apply this as well. The statistic, however, for spinal cord injury, the prevalence of obesity is 40 to 66%. That's a national statistic. And so that's a pretty big chunk. Half of people with spinal cord injuries are obese. And this is largely because loss of muscle, which is called sarcopenia, loss of muscle and decreased metabolic rate. So our muscle burns more than our fat. And so the more muscle you lose, the slower your metabolism gets. Limited mobility, and then lower activity. This is all the risk right there. And then with being overweight or obese, the risk with the spinal cord injury is inadequate blood supply to the heart. So oftentimes I have patients with chest pains. Stroke is a risk, heart disease, kidney stones, colon cancer, depression, diabetes, reproductive dysfunction, and social isolation. So there are a lot of risks with population. Next slide. Oh, can you go back one slide? Sorry, Robert. There's a study that I have referenced here where I got a lot of information about obesity and spinal cord injury. So feel free to access this paper and take a look at it. It was written in 2017, so it's pretty recent. I could say recent within 4 or 5 years. Additional factors with SCI or just disability in general: risk of injuring yourself. I'm thinking shoulder health for paraplegic, like from propelling heavy weight. Risk of losing your independence if the weight exceeds your capacity or your caregivers. Increased reliance on others, decreased independence overall. Decreased independence with bowel and bladder programs. Decreased independence with ADLs, lower body dressing and bathing. So your weight actually plays a huge role in your ability to do a lot of these things, or your caregivers. Caregiver burden and health, access to rooms. So some of our patients can't get into their bathroom because they've got a wheelchair that's too wide, so they can't get into certain parts of their house. And emergencies. This is probably one of the biggest risks, is the ability to get to safety if you need to. Being obese it can hinder your safety. Custom equipment. I've had patients in my outpatient clinic that have come to me, or I've done phone calls with them where they've outgrown their custom equipment and they're bedbound. So this is a risk, because I believe insurance covers wheelchairs every 5 years or so. A lot of durable medical equipment have weight limits as well, and so exceeding those weight limits will reduce your ability to be able to use those things. And then skin integrity. Pressure ulcers are a risk, and an increased risk for shearing or rubbing on hips and thighs on your wheels, or developing posterior sacral wounds from your equipment if it's ill-fitting and that kind of thing. Next. Any questions up to this point? Anybody? Seems depressing. It'll get better. Metabolic changes. So I just want to talk a little bit about your metabolism. So your metabolic rate is how fast your body burns the foods that you eat. That's just it in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's the easy way to put it. You need more energy, which is calories, and protein after an injury. And then your needs drop about 6 or 12 months after an injury, depending on the severity of it. And then your needs drop below where they were before your injury after that. And that is largely due to lower muscle mass, lower activity level, and this increases your risk for weight gain. So at first, I have a hard time keeping weight on some of my newly injured patients. Their metabolism goes up, and then it starts to come down, and then it drops substantially, and then we're looking at weight gain. So I've seen both. I've seen a lot of weight loss in the beginning and struggling to keep up with that, and then I've seen weight gain in the same patient as an outpatient. So it's this is the majority of my population. Is there a way to increase your metabolic rate? Not really. No. Does caffeine help? No. No. I'm not going to tell them what that takes speed, someone says. No. There's no real way to increase your metabolic rate. If you can work out with weights, then increasing your muscle mass would be helpful increasing your metabolic rate. So having more muscle, as I was saying earlier, muscle it burns more calories than fat does. So if you have more fat, then you're at risk for more weight gain. Having more muscle. So that was a good one, and I don't know if I can repeat all that, but having more muscle increases you have a higher metabolism with more muscle. If you can increase your muscle by using weights, that kind of thing, you increase your metabolism. So more muscle means more metabolism. Less muscle, slower metabolism. Does that answer your question? Good question. And nice to see you. Okay, so we're done with this slide. Any other questions here online? Okay. Before we go any further, let's chat about a couple of diets that have come across my plate in the last few years. The biggest one, I think, is the ketogenic diet that I've heard about. This is one that's well studied in children with epilepsy, and it works wonderfully for that population. A lot of my nurses want to know all about the ketogenic diet at every New Year's. And I tell them, if you feel like being constipated, then we'll chat about it. But it is, constipation is probably the #1 complaint I hear about the ketogenic diet. There's limited fiber in this diet. So I'm not going to tell you don't do a ketogenic diet, but consider hydration, and also definitely want to keep an eye on your lipids, keep an eye on your cholesterol, your triglycerides, your LDL, because it increases your risk for heart disease. And heart disease already is a risk for those with spinal cord injury. So keto may not be the best thing for you. One benefit, and I will say there's a good thing and a bad thing. One benefit is it cuts out processed and sugary foods. Those things don't work on a ketogenic diet. You're not allowed to have them. So that is one positive benefit. But also having fruit and other things like that, it's cut out as well. The paleo caveman diet, that's another one. There's no real solid evidence that a paleo caveman style diet that's kind of meat and certain vegetables and fruits and things like that. We've evolved. We don't need to chase our food anymore. So this one isn't proven to be a beneficial diet for us. Another benefit though, however, this one is cutting out processed and sugary foods. So people eating like cavemen, they're not eating Doritos or Taco Bell. A brand new one that I'm hearing about that, again, limited studies, real good studies with a lot of people, have not heard of any studies with spinal cord injury with any of these diets. The carnivore diet is the newest one I'm hearing about, and that is the all meat diet. Don't do it. I have covered other units in the hospital, and I will tell you I've seen a few people with small bowel obstructions. So if you have a spinal cord injury, I would not recommend doing carnivore diet at all. And then intermittent fasting. So fasting is basically a way to cut your calories. So it is dropping all of your intake to a certain window of eating during the day. A lot of people do like an 8-hour eating window. That is okay. But the caveat with this is make sure you're getting all the nutrition that you possibly need. If you're trying to lose weight and do an intermittent fast, make sure you get everything that you need in that tiny window. It's hard to do, especially if you're extreme and you want to do a 4-hour eating window. It's almost impossible to get all the nutrition you need into that 4 hours without supplementing. I'm not a huge fan of supplements. I prefer food over supplements. So that diet is a tough one. Cleanses and detoxes, not a fan, honestly. If you have functioning liver and kidneys, just let them do their job because that's what they're there for. If you have liver disease or kidney disease, then maybe you're not detoxing as well. But we have wonderful organs that they work hard for us every single day to help us exist. And so detoxes, they freak me out a little bit. A lot of people do this cayenne pepper lemon thing every New Year's, trying to drop pounds, but the pounds come off, it's all water, and then they get so hungry, they go ravenous, and next thing you know, they're diving into a bowl of chili, so with cheese and all kinds of things. So no cleanses or detoxes. So think about diets. I'm not a fan of diets. I like moderation. I like finding what works for you, and we'll talk more, but the trick is think about sustainability. If you go onto Google and you Google diet, you're going to get 1,000 ideas, and they're all going to look appealing to you, and they're all going to pull money out of your wallet. And the thing is, how long, like, what did you do last time, and how long did it last? Think about the last thing you tried to do, whether it was to gain weight or lose weight. What did you try, and are you still doing it? So think about sustainability. A healthy diet is the one that will give you all the nutrition you need in the safest manner possible that you can sustain for your life. That is the healthy diet. So once you find that, then you're good to go. So a little bit of a lesson here. We'll talk about calories. A lot of people don't even know what calories are. In fact, when I read this definition, you still won't. The amount of heat needed to raise the temperature of a gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. That's the actual scientific definition of a calorie. So a calorie is the amount needed to cause the same increase in 1 kilogram of water. Still don't know what it is, huh? Anyways, it's energy that comes from your food, and we use that so our bodies can function. So that's the definition. Calories provide energy in the form of heat so our bodies function. So our bodies store energy and it burns energy. Energy and calories are used interchangeably. So our bodies use calories to function. Just a side note, you might have heard macronutrients, micronutrients. Macronutrients are the nutrients that you think of most, protein, carbs, and fat. Micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. Just useless information if you didn't know it. There you go. So protein. What foods have protein? Meat, nuts, fish, legumes, beans. Yeah. Yogurt. Yeah. So protein has 4 calories per gram. Carbohydrates. What foods have carbs? Bread, chips, fruit. Popcorn, pasta. Yeah. So carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram. Name some foods that have fat. Butter, avocado, cheese, oil, nuts, peanut butter, that kind of thing. Fat. So why is this highlighted? Because it has 9 calories per gram. So that is more than half of the calories in protein and carb foods. So every food, even lettuce, has protein, carbs, and fat, by the way. A leaf of lettuce has fat in it, believe it or not. It's just the ratio. So a leaf of lettuce would have more carbs, probably second protein, and then fat third. So every food has all 3. It's just different proportions. So it's fat, the foods that are primarily fat that have the most calories. And a calorie is really not a calorie. So, and you'll know this in a couple of minutes. You'll have a very clear understanding of what I'm talking about. What makes the food filling and satisfying? So foods that are high in water, high in fiber, and high in nutrients. Those are the foods that are filling and satisfying. So remember that information. This is what 500 calories looks like in your stomach. It's not a really realistic picture, but it kind of gets the point across. So a tiny little bit of oil is 500 calories. Then the next one's cheese, and then meat, then grains and beans, and fruits and vegetables. So you can eat a whole lot of fruits and vegetables for 500 calories that and they're full of fiber, water, and nutrients, right? So gonna fill you up, lots of fiber. So now we'll play a little game. For 450 calories, which one of these is going to fill you up and which is healthier? 2 pounds of pineapple or 4 ounces of gummy bears? Yeah, pineapple. And I'll be realistic. No one's going to eat 2 pounds of pineapple, but just to get the point across, it's quite the difference there. Any questions? Depends on the size of the gummy bear. There's all different sizes. Okay. I was asked how many gummy bears in 4 ounces. So both 100 calories. You got a bowl of blueberries and a little bit of almonds. So which is going to fill you up and which is healthier? Blueberries. You can get a lot more in your stomach, a lot more blueberries. And I know you're thinking to yourself right now that fat is filling and satisfying, but it won't give you all the nutrients that you need, and it won't fill you up like that feeling that you get when you eat a lot of blueberries. Of course, you're probably not going to eat some of these foods that come across the screen in that amount. So this just to show you the difference. Full of fiber. Fiber will lower that. So if you have a food that has fiber and carbohydrates, natural sugar, the fiber will help you with absorbing it slower. If you were to put a pile of sugar, white sugar on that plate, oh yeah, you'll be hungry in a half an hour for sure. You add fiber to that sugar, and that's the trick. Yeah, definitely agree with the point of not eating too much sugar and having sugar not carry you over for a while. But when you add fiber to that and nutrients as well, micronutrients in there, that's a lot more substantial. Good question. Good counter argument. Handful of olives or a whole cucumber or 45 stalks of celery or 3.5 bell peppers. Which one's going to fill you up? Who's going to eat 45? No, it's either of those three or the olives. Any of those. They're all the same, similar. So nobody's going to eat 45 stalks of celery. But if you were to eat 10 olives or a whole cucumber, which one's going to make you feel fuller? And all of those have fiber in them too, by the way. Yeah? Cucumbers have fiber? Next one. Here's a quarter avocado. That's thinly sliced, okay, unless you have a jumbo avocado. A quarter avocado or a whole sweet potato. Which one do you think is going to fill you up? Yeah. Sweet potato has fiber. Yes, it has carbohydrates in it too, but it also has fiber and it has a whole lot of nutrients in it. The avocado, there's benefit to that, and I go further into that in a little bit, but the thing that's going to hold you over and fill you up is probably the sweet potato. Tablespoon of peanut butter, which is like this, or an apple, a whole apple. So again, with the natural sugar and the fiber versus a tiny bit of fat. I actually prefer to have both of them, but yeah, if you were to just pick one, and I actually do carrots with my peanut butter, but if you're looking for satiety and to fill you up and the fiber content and nutrients, then you're going to win with the apple for sure. Next one. This one's kind of a weird example because I love kale. I don't know if anyone here loves kale. Oh, I'm getting faces. A couple nods. Okay, good. All right. A quarter. You like it now. So a quarter cup is a tiny amount. So a quarter cup of cooked rice. And I'm just going to go ahead and say maybe that's white rice. It looks kind of like brown. I'm not sure what kind of rice this is. Or 1 3/4 cups of kale, and it looks like it's raw. Many people like to cook their kale. It's kind of crazy when it's raw, but but the bulk is what we're looking at here. So raw kale versus a little bit of rice, probably the kale. A quick trick. If you want to add kale to your salads, take a little tiny bit of olive oil and massage it, and it will break down, and then it'll mix well with your salad. So, and there's a good amount of fiber in that too. Here's a really good one, 200 calories here. 4 chicken nuggets or 2 big bowls of lentil soup. This one's a good example. Which one's going to fill you up? Soup. Which one's healthier? Lentil soup. Good. Thank goodness someone answered that correctly. My teenage patients would tell me the chicken nuggets, but next slide. 2 fig Newtons or a whole entire cantaloupe? Yeah. Fig Newtons are awesome. I used to love fig Newtons growing up. Question?
How many calories?
How many calories in the 2 bowls of lentil soup? So for this example, I don't know how big these bowls are. It says big bowls, right? So I'm thinking probably like 100 calories for each bowl or something like that. Because this example is 200 calories. Yeah, so they're equal. 200 calories for the 4 chicken nuggets, 200 calories for the soup. So it's probably more like 1 big bowl of lentil soup. I didn't take these pictures, but the point is you get a lot more lentil soup than you do chicken nuggets. And there's other factors to look at when you look at the chicken nuggets. So we said the cantaloupe, right, for this one? Okay, next. More gummy bears. 5 ounces of gummy bears or a whole watermelon. You're not going to eat a whole watermelon. I realize, and I know there's sugar in watermelon, but there's other good things in watermelon too. So which one's going to fill you up? Say you're going to eat a whole watermelon. Will that fill you up, or will the gummy bears? Next one. I think this is the last one. So this is 800 calories. You get a cup of cashews or 5 whole baked potatoes. I put without butter. Say salsa. Put salsa on it or something like that. But 800 calories. So which one? Can you eat 5 whole baked potatoes? Can you eat a cup of cashews? Easy, right? Okay. So that's 800 calories for a cup of cashews. That's a lot of calories. Oh, it's easy. Oh, yeah. It's so easy to eat too many nuts. And they come from a tree, and they're healthy, Robert says. Next one. Okay. So let's talk about caloric density. This is kind of the hummus and potatoes of my argument here, of what I'm trying to present to you. I want to talk about caloric density because this is the trick to weight maintenance, whether it be weight loss, weight gain. This is kind of where I would like to focus everybody's attention now. So caloric density, what does that mean? How many calories in a given weight of food, grams or ounces? How many calories in it? Foods high in water, fiber, and nutrients are lower. I'm going to get up so I can point to a couple things. Is that okay? So foods that are high in water, fiber, and nutrients are lower in calories. So I'm going to tell you over here, this is vegetables. It looks kind of small to you probably. So vegetables, fruits. This is unprocessed complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates are whole grains, fruits, and veggies. Then we have legumes here. Then we have animal products. And then we have processed complex carbohydrates. So unprocessed complex carbs are foods in their natural state, like corn is unprocessed complex carb. Processed complex carbs are foods that are processed, obviously. So corn versus corn flakes. So you have vegetables, fruits, unprocessed complex carbs like the corn, legumes, animal products, processed complex carbs like corn flakes. Then you have junk food, nuts and seeds, and oil and fat. So that's the scale from left to right. So foods high in water, fiber, and nutrients are on the left side, and foods that are low in water, fiber, and nutrients are on the higher in calories on the right-hand side. Any questions about this slide? Yeah, it would be. Right?
Yeah, I can make it available.
So let's go to the next slide. It'll be on the next couple slides. So eating more foods, obviously, then knowing that on the left side, eating more foods from the left side of the chart and less food from the right side will result in weight loss. And then flipping it around and eating less food on the left and more on the right will result in weight gain. So if you need to lose weight, you would focus your attention where the green is mostly. And if you need to gain weight, focus a little bit more. You want the left side too. You definitely don't want to like ignore the left side, but you would work with the left side but add more of the foods on the right. Try to stay away from the junk food area, you know, like the nuts, seeds, oils, fats. That's the area you want to add if you're trying to gain weight. Any questions so far? I'll go more into detail. Yes. Legumes, beans and legumes, lentils and soybeans and garbanzo beans and all the beans. Next slide. Okay, so eating more food on the left is also beneficial for health and the prevention of cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, chronic disease, and some forms of cancer, in addition to weight loss and easy weight maintenance. So we all know eating fruits and veggies is beneficial to long-term health. So it's also important for weight loss and maintenance, but also for health, overall health. You need some fat, though, in your diet. If you're trying to lose weight, you still need to add a little bit of foods from the right side, 1 or 3 ounces with every meal every day. And having it with the meal is really important because certain foods need fat for you to absorb them. One of the examples is carotenoids, like the orange, yellow, and red vegetables are really, they need fat to absorb them better. So having a little bit of fat is really important, 1 to 3 ounces if you're trying to lose weight. If you're trying to gain weight, then have more avocado and oils and nuts and seeds and that kind of thing. Eating more food on the left is also beneficial because there's higher water and fiber in those foods. You need those for regular bowel movements, especially with spinal cord injury. So making sure you get a wide variety of foods on the left is really helpful for your bowel program. And this is the slide I have for my underweight patients. So definitely want to eat foods on the left, but add more healthy fat like avocado, olives, nuts, nut butters, and seeds from the right side. You can eat less of these foods for a lot more calories. So they'll really help with weight gain. And of course, see a dietitian. If you're trying to gain weight and you're not having any success, then see a dietitian for sure. If you're local, come see me. So what does a healthy diet look like? Cut the crap. That's not my acronym at all, but I took it and the credit is down in the bottom left. But cutting out the crap, calorie-rich processed foods. Just cut that stuff out as much as possible. Eat more plants, vegetables, fruits, beans, legumes, and whole grains. Do we know what whole grains are? Whole wheat, whole wheat pasta, brown rice, oatmeal, things in their natural state. Anything that's not like white bread, white pasta, that kind of thing. So whole, look for the word whole grain or whole wheat on the label. Less fat. So fat makes it hard to regulate your bowels. Fat actually slows things down. If you have a high fat diet, it slows things down. I'll give you an example. In the ICU, we have patients who are intubated and sedated, and their bodies are not working right. We want them on a very low fat tube feeding formula because it just slows everything down, fat does. So imagine with spinal cord injury, it does this, it slows you down. So eating a high fat diet is really not a good idea. Just a little bit of fat a day with a meal is what I recommend. And then a rainbow. So you want different colors. Different colors have different nutrients. So if you find yourself eating mostly red and yellow, not really mixing it up with green or blue or purple, like you want to try to get a rainbow because even all the different colored bell peppers have different nutrient profiles to them. So getting a lot of colors as you possibly can and don't get stuck in a rut. Try new things. So go to the farmer's market, go to the produce section, try new things that you don't recognize. You can ask at the farmer's market, ask what this is, how do I use it, what do I do, how do I make it? Try new grains and beans, try new recipes. The word on the street now is plant-based. This means some people might think it means vegan or something like that. You could be vegan and be plant-based, but plant-based means basically most of your food is plants. Most of it comes from the ground or on a tree or in a bush. Like most of your foods are plants. You could even call yourself plant-based if you're eating avocado and olive oil and all those things too, if you're trying to gain weight. So plant-based is mostly plants. Aim for 90% if you can. I'll be honest, and I'll tell you all right now, genetics, I should have told you this when we were on that slide, but genetics, I inherited the jackpot. My dad, bless his heart, rest in peace, he went down in flames. He had diabetes, heart disease, cancer, you name it, he had it. And your dietitian, you're looking at me right now, 1 year ago, I had super high cholesterol, I found out. I had my lab done. I could not believe it. It was awful. And I was eating kind of a Mediterranean style diet, a lot of chicken and that kind of thing, and drinking some wine. And like, I was just not really, I thought it was all healthy and everything was fine. And my cholesterol was high. And so I just did exact opposite. I went 100% plant-based. I cut out all meat, all dairy, like just an experiment. I'm a scientist. I like science. And so I cut it all out. And lo and behold, everything was perfect 4 months later. So I'm not advising that you do this, but it really might make a difference if you're staring down the tunnel of heart disease and you're worried about your health. Going as close to 90% plant-based as you can. And honestly, if you start to feel good, go with it. I felt fantastic, and I had labs done again last month, and they're all perfect still. So apparently I'm 100% plant-based for life, and I feel great. So I hope that this helps you guys when you think about this. Yeah. How do you have a plant-based breakfast? The easiest thing ever. I love oatmeal. So I got a face. I got a face. Whole wheat toast? Whole wheat toast? Fruit? Yeah. Grits. Isn't grits oatmeal? You could do cream of wheat. Oh, I'm getting another face. I think you're a picky eater. Okay. We'll talk more. Well, we'll talk more. We'll talk more. Everyone's different, okay? I've worked with a lot of patients with spinal cord injury, and everybody is really, their bodies are all totally different. Your body might not like oatmeal, though. My body loves oatmeal. Yeah.
How do you gain weight with?
Gaining weight, you want to add fat. You want to add fat. So you'll plant-based, but you know what? Pile on the avocado and the olive oil and the nuts and the nut butters and the seeds, and just pile that healthy fat on. Healthy fat. So yeah. And I have had patients that, oh, the question?
Yeah, because that.
Okay. How do you gain weight on a plant-based diet? So my answer is 100% plant-based, but pile on the avocado and the nut butters and the seeds and healthy fats, olive oil, all those healthy fats. So that's how you do it. Yeah. Is dried fruit considered healthy, plant-based? Dried fruit is plant-based. Dried fruit is healthy, but you have to be careful with eating too much of it. It can give you diarrhea. You can easily overdo dried fruit for sure. So be very careful with that.
Why is that?
It concentrates. So when you dehydrate fruit, it concentrates the sugars. There's still some fiber, but not as much. And like I said, the healthiest foods have a lot of water, fiber, and nutrients. So you're missing out on water. So probably get a whole lot less dried apricots than you would get apricots. So that would be another slide we could put up there and compare the two. Question? Where does milk belong to on the scale? It's in the middle. It's in the middle. Dairy actually can be quite constipating. It can cause problems with a lot of bowel, people that have bowel problems. So it has benefit to it. If you're looking for the calcium, you can go plant-based, and you can get a plant-based soy milk or almond milk or any of those. There's oat milk now, and they fortify those with calcium, and that would probably be less calories then. If you want to do dairy, then I would go with like lower fat dairy if you want to do dairy. But that's just my opinion on that. Any other questions so far? Egg whites? Okay, so cholesterol. Let's chat about cholesterol. These are all good questions. So it's fine to eat eggs with the yolk and all that, as long as you don't eat processed foods and a lot of sugar. So that's where the problem is. You eat foods that have cholesterol in them and junk food on top of it, then you're asking for issues, heart issues. Egg whites, it's fine. I wouldn't be worried about egg yolk if you have a really healthy, mostly plant diet and you're eating the whole egg. I wouldn't bat an eyelash at it. But if you are eating a lot of sugar and junk food and that kind of thing, then I would worry about eating egg yolks. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Why are they?
It's the combination of sugar and processed foods and the cholesterol in your diet that raises. So eggs have been good, they've been bad, they've been good, they've been bad. The new research now is eggs are great. They're a great source of protein. They're a whole food. They're good for you. But it's the overall diet that you need to look at. If you're going to be having a lot of eggs in your diet, you need to look at the whole thing. Questions? Good. Next slide. Fiber. Okay, so this is really important here. And before I go a whole lot further, you can Google soluble fiber sources and insoluble fiber sources. Some fibers have both, soluble and insoluble. So I just want to introduce you to the two of them. Soluble fiber, this is the one that attracts water and turns to gel when you're digesting it. It slows things down. So soluble fiber slows things down. I'm going to jump ahead and say soluble is kind of where you want to go if you have lower neurogenic bowel. That's kind of where you want to go because things tend to go a little faster when you have lower neurogenic bowel, and so soluble fiber helps to slow it down. In some of the foods, one of the main ones is oatmeal. Oatmeal, beans have soluble. Lentils, peas. So you Google yourself a list of soluble fibers, look for something, and then try to focus your attention on that if that's what you need. Also really good if you have diabetes. This kind of fiber helps slow down glucose. I was talking earlier to Sam about fruit and the sugars in fruit. There's also the fiber in fruit, which this is what it is. It slows down the absorption of glucose into your bloodstream. And then another benefit of this kind of fiber, and the one that you've probably heard about the most, is the fact that oatmeal is the famous one. I think the oatmeal industry, I forget the name of the major brand of oatmeal. Quaker Oats, yes. I'm sure they've spent an enormous amount of money on studies and research because soluble fiber helps bind cholesterol and helps it to be not be absorbed into your blood. So that's one reason why oatmeal is so famous. And that's why some people tolerate oatmeal and others don't, I guess. It depends on what you need. But oatmeal is famous for its soluble fiber and the fact that it helps to slow things down. Question? What kind of rice? White rice? No. Nope. Basically, they take the part of the fiber off the brown rice and throw it away. And then they give you the white rice. The question was, does white rice have a lot of fiber? No. You know, in fact, if I remember correctly, white rice, there was a deficiency back in the day. I forget which population it was, but yeah. There was, but listen, there was a deficiency. I think it was, I want to say it was in the 20s or 30s or something like that. There was a major deficiency with white rice in a population, and I forget where they were looking. So now what they do, probably they fortify it. Do you know that? They have to go back in, and I know that they had to fortify our white bread 100 years ago because they were coming up with a lot of deficiencies because all of the nutrients, all the B vitamins and the fibers thrown away for white bread and white rice, it's all thrown away. So now they have to go back and add the nutrients back into white rice so that way we don't have deficiencies. So why not just eat brown rice? That's my question. So soluble fiber. Insoluble fiber does the opposite. It's a different mechanism. It adds bulk to stool and helps food pass through quicker through the stomach and intestine, so speeds things up. So insoluble fiber makes things go faster through your system. So if you have upper neurogenic bowel, then you would probably want to try a combination of the two, figure out kind of what works for you. Everybody's different, but upper is more a little bit of both fibers. Lower is more on the soluble side. Yes, question. What about long grain rice? As long as it's brown, long brown, you know, whole grain rice.
Is that like wild rice? Would that be? I see wild rice sometimes.
I mean, it depends on what it is. Yeah, but black rice is another one. Take a look. You know what? The best thing you can do is on these packages, take a look at the fiber content on them and see how much fiber's in there. And you know, it would do you even one better to pull a couple off the shelf and compare them. Take a look at the fiber. You want the more fiber. So both of these are good. They can be used to speed up and slow down bowel movements if needed. Play around with fiber. And not just supplements. Try food, because certain foods have different effects. And so play around if you feel like, if you're lower neurogenic, play around with different soluble. Maybe if I wouldn't add a whole list of soluble fibers to your diet, like right off the bat, but maybe one at a time, and keep everything else the same. That's like, scientists don't change all the things at once. They change one thing at a time, and for a little while, do it for a week or two, and then if nothing happens or if it's not good, then try the second thing on the list. Question? Ask your doctor. Yeah, it depends on your level of injury. It does. So, and that is probably one of the things that I haven't learned yet, but I need to learn the levels and the upper versus lower, that kind of thing. If you go to a physical medicine and rehab doctor, they can tell you. Yeah. Or you can tell me what your level is and I can get back to you. Yeah. C1? Okay. I'll have to ask.
I'll ask.
Yep, question? Okay, so Metamucil is a soluble fiber. Does fiber come in liquid? So can you purchase fiber in a liquid form? Or okay, so it is dehydrated. It's psyllium husk. It's from a plant. It's in powder form, and in order to digest it without choking on it, you have to mix it with water. It's soluble fiber, so it works good to slow things down, but Metamucil can be used to slow things down or speed things up too, like depending on how much water you drink with it. I'm a big fan of using foods first, so if you're looking for soluble fiber, if you've been using Metamucil, start looking at foods that have soluble fiber primarily and play around with them. So oatmeal, apples have a little bit of both, but like oatmeal's a big one. Oat bran, beans, lentils, peas. So again, Google a list of soluble fiber. There's a lot of information on the internet about fiber. If you want to reach out to me, I can give you my contact information and I can give you lists of fiber. I just didn't have the room to put all the food lists on the presentation. I think that's it for this slide. Any other questions on this slide? Okay. And then hydration. So if you're adding fiber to your diet, you have to make sure you're hydrated too. Hydration is actually super important no matter what, honestly. If you're having poor results with a bowel program, the first thing I want to ask you is how much water are you drinking? Because water is really important. Water really moves things through. A lot of foods, if you don't drink enough water, they get down into your large intestine, like, you know, it goes down your esophagus, down into your stomach, and some things are absorbed there, and then into the small intestine, and you absorb most of the nutrients there. Then it goes into your large intestine, and if you don't have enough water, all it does is dry up. It just dries up and forms into like a mass of dried up food in your colon. and it's not going to pass. It's going to be really hard to evacuate, get your bowels cleaned out. So, and that's dangerous. So having enough water is really imperative. It's also important to, I'll talk more about urinary tract infections here, but our bodies are made of 60% water. So if you're not getting enough water, then your system doesn't work right, no matter what. Even if you have a spinal cord injury or not, your system won't work right. It's a preferred source for hydration. Soda and juice are definitely associated with high risk for diabetes. So drinking sugar is never a good idea. So if you can cut your soda and sugar, your juice habits out and just sparkling water, I'm getting sad face here. That would be probably my biggest advice if you have a risk for diabetes, if it runs in your family, that drinking sugar is never a good idea. Yes. So I do talk about cranberry juice. So the science is still out on cranberry juice. There are studies, cranberry pills. So still, it's inconclusive. We don't have 100% evidence on cranberry juice. We do know that cranberry juice has an ingredient in it that prevents a certain bacteria from sticking to the wall of your bladder. Okay, that we know. But there's no study that says that cranberry juice prevents UTIs. It's hydration, adequate hydration, that is like the #1 prevention for UTIs. So with an increase in fiber, you have to drink more water to move the stool through your bowels. High fluid intake reduces your risk for infection and also kidney stones too. If you get dehydrated, you're at risk for kidney stones. UTIs are common with spinal cord injury, but also if you have uncontrolled blood sugar, diabetes, you are definitely at risk for UTI as well if you have uncontrolled blood sugar. Cranberry juice, if you're hydrated, if you're drinking enough water, and you like your cranberry juice, again, there is something in it that helps prevent bacteria from sticking, but it's not an end-all be-all. I think the key thing to remember is water. Slide. Question? Yes. Cranberry extracts and pills, same thing. I wouldn't say they're worthless. I mean, there is evidence that it prevents bacteria from sticking to your bladder, but there's no evidence that says that cranberry juice extracts and pills prevent UTIs 100%. You know, it's not out there. But it's going around. You know, people recommend it, doctors recommend it, but what I recommend is just make sure you're drinking a lot of water. So how do you eat well on a budget? This is a lot of information, but I just wanted to share how you do this. Eating at home, obviously, if you go out to eat all the time, it's going to be hard on your wallet. And then also, you can't really control what you're eating, and you can't eat as healthfully as you want to eat if you're constantly eating out. So with that said, try to bring food with you when you go places. Bring it with you. And a lot of the foods on the left side of that scale are packable foods, things that you can carry with you. And if you're trying to gain weight, there's foods on the right side too, like nuts and that kind of thing, peanut butter that you can bring with you. They're packable. Spend 50% of your grocery budget on plants. So that's an option. Stock your freezer with frozen fruits. And yes, frozen fruits and veggies that are on sale. Some of those fruits and veggies that are frozen are fresher than actual raw, like fresh in the produce section, because think of the blackberries. They're traveling from Mexico and they're on a truck, and every mile that they travel, the nutrient content goes down. They start to rot, and you know they're aging, and they lose nutrients the more time they spend away from where they're picked. However, the frozen blackberries, they're picked and they're flash frozen, right? Like real close to where they were picked. They're flash frozen, and so you often get more bang nutritionally for your buck with frozen. So having a freezer full of frozen fruits and vegetables is a great way to go about it. So if you see a sale, stock up, fill your freezer. Skip the pre-chopped fruits and veggies if you can. They are convenient, but they are expensive. So if you or your caregiver can chop up your watermelon or your cantaloupe or your carrots and that kind of thing, it'll save you money. Organic foods, not a huge fan. Certain foods are probably better to get organic, but if you're watching your budget, then just buying regular foods that are on sale and washing them really well is probably okay. Don't ever buy organic bananas. Anything that comes in a peel, don't buy organic because that doesn't make any sense. Farmer's market, go at the end. They're going to throw their food at you. They don't want to take it home. They don't want to take it back. They want you to take it. You're going to get it at cost or lower cost. So try to hit the farmer's market at the end. No such thing as a superfood. So don't buy into the gimmick of superfoods. They're just a way to empty your wallet. Shop the bulk section. I love bulk sections. Whole beans, whole grains. You can get all those things and you can make many things from them. So soup, cereals, veggie burgers, chili. Don't worry about brand names. Get generic. That's fine. Water instead of soda or juice. Cheaper. Avoid supplements. Supplements are poorly regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. There's no oversight. They can't keep up. They're coming out with more and more supplements. So a lot of people have studied supplements and looked at the ingredients that are on the label, like they claim to have certain ingredients on them, and when they are tested, there are no ingredients in there that they claim that there are. So the supplement business is shady, very shady. And we don't know where they came from either. So there's no guarantee that they're actually clean and safe. Yes. Vitamin pills. What's the name? Oh, vitamin C? Okay, yeah. Vitamins. So straight vitamins, yes. If you need vitamins, they're okay. Look for a seal on them. There's a seal of where they're tested. So look for the tested seal. Don't go to the dollar store. Oh my gosh, my dad bought vitamins at the dollar store one time, and I was very upset. So you don't want to go to the dollar store for your vitamins. But if you need vitamin C, so I recommend vitamin C if you have wounds that aren't healing. Vitamin C is important, and you can also get that from food too. But actual vitamins, fine. If you're not eating well, I recommend a multivitamin, like just a daily multivitamin to cover everything if you're not eating well. And you can get good quality vitamins, like name brands like Centrum and that kind of thing. They're closely watched. It's the little ones, the names that you don't recognize that come from. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, vitamin D. He takes vitamin. Everyone should take vitamin D, probably. I've heard that before. Yeah. Well, vitamin C is a water soluble vitamin, so it doesn't hurt that you're taking vitamin C. If you take a lot of vitamin C, you'll just pee out the extra, so it's okay. You can also get vitamin C from food too. So strawberries are a good source of vitamin C, and citrus and that kind of thing. Um, yep. Yep. Yes. So you can also do rice cooker and that kind of thing, crock pot, microwave. There's ways to cook all those things. Asking about bulk items and that you would have to cook. So yeah, so you'll find beans in the bulk section, all different kinds of beans. If you have an Instant Pot, boom. Instant Pot is awesome. You can do rice in an Instant Pot, beans, yeah, veggies. You can do everything in an Instant Pot. They're awesome. Yes. Okay. I'm about done. Yeah. So next. Wait. Avoid supplements, poorly regulated. Buy only what you need for the week. Avoid waste. So don't buy too much. Don't waste your money that way unless you want to freeze it. Next slide. And then bulk cooking. I wanted to go into this real quick. I've talked about this before, so hopefully it's a good reminder, but prepare or have a caregiver work ahead a few times a week and make extras. So it's really important to, especially if you don't have the time to cook or you can't cook or your caregiver can't cook every single day, and who can do that anyways? I mean, nobody can do that. Double recipes for leftovers or to freeze, cook a variety. So this is where we were talking about beans and legumes and whole grains and things like that. You can cook one or two of these things in bulk, and I would say two. So cook two different kinds of beans, or you can even buy canned beans and rinse them and have two different kinds. You can cook 2 different kinds, like a brown rice. You can do a pasta. You can cook vegetables, a couple different varieties of vegetables, chop some raw vegetables to keep in a Tupperware. Have a variety, and you can like plug and play your meals for like 3 days, 4 days. It's way easier than, and then like washing and drying. It looks like a lot of work, but if you're doing this or your caregiver twice a week, you will have a huge variety of, like, imagine the different combinations you can create if you have a couple of each of these things ready to go, especially when you figure out your fiber, your perfect fiber. Like, you'll have it all dialed in, but you'll have to play around to see what works well for you. Chop some fruits. And then if you're eating a lot of plants, one of the things I recommend is to have a couple of go-to sauces, really easy sauces. Have a couple of good ones, like just different ones that you like to use to sort of pour over your veggies, a couple different dressings and that kind of thing, to mix it up so you don't get bored. I have probably 10 different sauces that I play around with, that I put them.
Give us some,
Yeah. What's that?
could you give us some examples?
Salsa's good.
Salsa.
Yeah, I make different pasta sauces. Yeah. Different Asian type sauces. I've done, I use a lot of chili garlic sauce. I like chili garlic sauce. And what else do you use? I use soy sauce, like a low sodium soy sauce, and water, and like you can use broth and that kind of thing, and seasons, and just you can find sauces that have less than 5 ingredients that you can mix up and play around with. Once you get your favorites too, it's great, because then you can just like, oh, I'm going to flavor all my food with this one for the next couple days. What was the other question?
Where can
Ooh, food. Where can we go for food types and recipes for plant-based therapies? Well, you can Google plant-based recipes, and right now, like I said, this is the word on the street, plant-based. I'm hearing it everywhere, and I love it. So just Google plant-based recipes, and you're going to get a ton of plant-based recipes. And again, aim for a high percent of plants. Make a plant-based recipe, grill some chicken, put next to it. If you want chicken in your life, or you fish, you don't have to be 100%, but there's a ton of great plant-based recipes. I'm trying to think of a book. I'll see if I can come up with that in the next few minutes, and I'll let you know what the name of it is. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I'll get there.
I use that?
That's a good one. And you can sort
You can
all
sort it out.
recipes. Yeah. So I'll see if I can come up with a name, but Food Network, yeah, just anything that you pull up plant-based, you'll notice it falls on the left side of that graph that I showed you. They're plants. Plant-based means mostly plants. So, and then if you're trying to gain weight, you want to put some avocado on that, or fun things like chopped nuts. If you're making some kind of a like Asian fusion dish, chopped peanuts on top of that. Yep. So physical activity. One of our physical therapists, I asked for recommendations here. This is the general recommendations for everybody in the country. So this is what they recommend for good health and exercise. This might not work for some of you, but the next slide. Physical activity is important for weight loss, maintenance, health, mental health, especially mental health. Those are the science-based recommendations for everybody, but every single person listening to this, talk to a therapist, PT, OT, find out what exercises are perfect for you, and those are what you want to do. And you may find that you may advance and do something different next time. Maybe you're getting tired of them, but everybody has some exercise that they can do. Just depends on what level you are. Monitoring your weight. The scale option, that's the one way. Weigh yourself weekly, keep a journal. Then the no scale option, this is most of my patients. So you want to track your weight when you go to your PM&R appointments. Keep a journal. Remember, different scales have different numbers, different methods. Like we have Hoyer lift scales and we have roll-on scales, and they will vary sometimes widely, which bothers me a little bit. But if you can try to stay consistent if you're able to, and try to be weighed on the same thing. How How do your clothes fit? That's one way you can do it. Even if you wear sweatpants, the same pair of sweatpants, you can outgrow a pair of sweatpants. You can also shrink until they fall off of you. So how are your clothes fitting? How does your wheelchair fit? How's your equipment fit? Are you outgrowing your wheelchair, or are you starting to rattle around in your wheelchair? That's a really good indicator. Um, your caregivers, so do they feel like you're gaining or losing? They will know too. Take all the information on this slide and that will all help you monitor your weight. If though you're unintentionally gaining all of a sudden and you don't know why, you can't figure it out, or if you're starting to lose weight and you don't know why and it's not intentional, then get a referral to a registered dietitian. You can come see me if you're local, or find yourself a registered dietitian, have your doctor refer you to one, so that way you can work with them. And also they can call me if we need to talk too. So I would be involved. I would love to help anybody that has any problems or anything. I'm here. That's it. So that's my favorite quote. Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. That is my favorite quote. And I totally believe it, because we're getting more and more patients in our hospital in all units because of lifestyle issues and overindulgences and things like that. And so food is medicine. It really is. And that's the way it should be.
Describe the pros.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, I just wrote an article. So my little hobby. Okay, so the benefits of a Mediterranean or Nordic diet for spinal cord injury. Okay, so I just did an article on this. I think it was for Healthline. I just compared the two diets. They're both pretty much the same. They're both plant-based, but with also seafood thrown in and maybe a little poultry, limited dairy, pretty much no meat. They're plants. Mediterranean diet is probably a very good option for spinal cord injury because of the fiber, lots of plants, and whole grains, that kind of thing. I would say probably 50-60% plant-based would be where they lie. More plants is better. So Mediterranean diet's great because it's a lot of plants, but the more plants you can manage in your diet, the healthier your outcome. I hope that answered the question. Any other questions? Cons? Well, if you're eating a Mediterranean diet and all you eat is fish, that's a con. With the fatty sea fish, you can get a mercury overload, but you have to eat a lot of it. So one thing you can do is go on to this Monterey Seafood Watch. If you want to do a plant-based diet and you love fish and you want to eat a lot of fish, go on to the Seafood Watch. The Monterey Seafood Watch, I believe, is what it's called. And they rate foods based on toxicity and safety. So you can check that out. There's a pretty moderate amount of fat could be a con, if you're trying to lose weight. Mediterranean diet is higher in fat than a lot of other diets, a lot of olive oil and olives and nuts and that kind of thing. So might not be the best option. You could do a hybrid Mediterranean and have mostly plants and just a little of the other things. So, question. First question, what do you think about? What do I think about Weight Watchers? It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. The thing I love about Weight Watchers is the fact that it's a community. If you're going to meetings, you're surrounded by people. It's a community. I like the fact that the recent plan includes a lot more vegetables and fruits. They recommend, but they also include, I think chicken is free too, and that kind of thing. So honestly, they're a points program, and you can eat a ton of chicken for free. I think they may have even updated the plan. I try to stay on top of all the recent stuff. But honestly, any diet can be an unhealthy one. So I think if you eat more plants, if you're able to eat more like I'm trying to describe, you'll save yourself some money in the long run. What's your other question? Hard to hold. Yes, you just answered your question. How do you measure how many calories you need? So this is part of my job that is a little frustrating because everybody's different, and we have these equations for everybody. There's even equations for spinal cord injury. So I have to put the numbers down, but everybody is different, and everybody's metabolism reacts differently. If you eat plant-based, water, fiber, nutrients, it is really hard to gain weight unless you're throwing in a lot of healthy fat. So then it's easy because the bulk keeps you full. I would love to challenge anybody to eat a ton of beans for lunch and dinner and tell me how they're feeling if they're not used to it. So be gradual with that kind of thing. Don't start eating a ton of beans because I said eat plant-based. Does that answer your question? It's really hard to overdo it in calories if you're eating a lot of plants, unless you throw in a lot of plant fats. Yes, question. I've shared it before. Yes, I've shared the equation for spinal cord injury before, but I've kind of tweaked it a little bit. So this is what I learned in my 6 years at San Jose State that pertains to spinal cord injury. 2 equations. So we calculate ideal body weight, which is, oh, by the way, BMI is based on, do you know where that came from? Insurance companies. In the 50s or 60s, they're the ones that created BMI. And out of BMI, we got ideal body weight. So what is a person's ideal body weight based on their height? It's all BS, okay? And then on top of that, this is the equation I learned. So you get the ideal body weight for the person, and then if they're para, you would take 5% off of that, and that's what they should weigh. And if you take, if they're quad, you take 10% off, right? Plus or minus 10%. But it doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. And so I have to still use equations. So I still have to do ideal body weight and make adjustments. I do complete versus I don't adjust for incomplete. I adjust for complete. But I just, those numbers, I don't even share them because I have to put them. They're part of my job, part of my scope. But everybody is different. And honestly, I can recommend 1,800 calories for somebody, and they might lose weight rapidly when I don't want them to. And so I have to constantly adjust those numbers. Counting calories is dismal. I don't recommend counting calories. It's interesting if you wanted to look at chronometer, if you want to go onto chronometer and track your calories for a week or two, just to see where you're at nutrition. If you want to do your overall nutrition and see how you're eating for a week or two, that's okay. But it's not something I would recommend doing. I would just start aiming to eat more plants. Eat on the left side if you're trying to lose weight, and add to the right if you're trying to gain. Food recommendations. Okay, so antibiotics, so those, they kill the bacteria in your stomach. Literally just destroy the gut bacteria that you need. It's beneficial for you. So after a course of antibiotics, or during actually would be even better, I recommend in the hospital, we have lactobacillus is the only one, but I would take a probiotic or a probiotic for sure during and after an antibiotic course. You could do something from the store if you do dairy. Actually, they have plant-based like yogurts and things like that that have probiotics. What I would do is look on the label and look for the cultures on there, like the live active cultures, and aim for a handful of them. It's kind of strange that we only recommend one strain of probiotic here, lactobacillus, in the hospital. It's the most widely studied one in the hospital. But I think like your chance of populating your gut with one strain of bacteria is very slim. Like we don't know if that's the one that's going to work for you. So if you want to find something that has 5 or 6 different strains of bacteria and take that for a while, I would do that for like several weeks or a month after you finish an antibiotic course, just to kind of repopulate your gut. And eat a lot of plants, because plants are prebiotics, and plants feed the bacteria. The bacteria needs the fruits and vegetables that you're eating to thrive, the good bacteria. Foods that keep okay, so calcium is the one, okay? So number one, before we talk about foods that keep up bone density, you want to think about vitamin D and your vitamin D level. Almost everybody is deficient in vitamin D. Almost everyone. I'm deficient in vitamin D and I get outside too. So you want to check your vitamin D level because vitamin D is what helps you absorb the calcium into your bones. If you have no vitamin D, if you're very low, deficient in vitamin D, then you're not going to build your bones. Your bones aren't going to be as strong. Once you're fully repleted, you got all your vitamin D on board, you're at a good level, calcium. So dark leafy greens, calcium fortified products. If you do dairy, calcium fortified, calcium in the dairy. If you want to do non-dairy stuff, there's tons of calcium fortified options out there. And then dark leafy greens have calcium too. So that's a good option. You had a question. Activia, yeah, Activia has live active cultures. If you tolerate dairy and your stomach is okay with it, sometimes dairy slows things down. If you're lactose intolerant, it speeds things up. But if you like your Activia and it works for you, then there's cultures in that, so that's good. You can also get probiotics from fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi and things like that too. Be careful though with those foods. Okay, a reminder from Robert, use the chat feature for questions, okay? Yeah. Any questions? Yes. They will be, yeah.
Yeah.
The slides are available.
I'll shoot them over.
I would love for you to have them. I assumed that everyone would have access to the slides. Can we?
It's going to be recorded as well.
Yeah, you should go back and watch my first presentation 5 years ago, and then watch this one.
Significant.
Yeah, it was my plate. You know, it was. I want to thank the people on the screen here, honestly, because I wanted to get a really good picture of everything I needed to cover for nutrition, and so chatting with the therapist was really helpful, especially when we talk about equipment and things like that. And the doctors helped, and you know, I got a lot of helpful information having them read through and offer other insight. Yes.
Shelley, I've got another question that I know you got 5 years. Special that
Anything that someone with a spinal cord injury can do.
We're always hearing, oh, take this. Special we should.
Okay, as far as foods for healing a spinal cord injury, I've never seen any research for that. I'm sorry. I know that there's a lot of research going on with stem cells and things like that. People are working on it right now. There's a lot of grant funding out there. People are really looking into it, but there's nothing that's been proven that you can eat that'll magically fix a spinal cord injury.
How does suppositories affect the bowels? Can we mitigate that?
That's a quite medical. It's a medical / nutrition question. How do suppositories affect the bowels, and can you mitigate that with food? So I don't swim in the realm of the suppository section. That's the doctor's area there. If they feel you need a suppository for a bowel program, then it might be something that you need. But eating plants, eating fiber, foods that are high in water, fiber, nutrients, that kind of thing, that cannot hurt your bowel program at all, honestly. If you throw a ton of fiber on, it might be a little harsh on you if you're not a high fiber eater. So take your time and add things in slowly. Hydration's another thing. So you know, stay hydrated. It's important for bowel programs. Maybe if you are not eating a lot of plants and you start introducing them gradually into your diet, and your fiber intake goes up and your water intake is adequate, maybe you won't need to use some of the bowel medications that you needed to before. But only time will tell with that. Everybody's a different individual, and so bowel programs vary from person to person. Everybody here has a different one. So I hope that answered that question. Yeah. So the question was, yes. Oh, yes. So mood and changing your diet and eating healthier, how does that improve mood? Yes, I have noticed quite the difference in mood with my patients. In switching more plants, definitely. Try this experiment. If you're used to eating fast food, switch over, eat more plant-based for a while, and then try eating fast food. It drags you down. It doesn't feel good. You won't feel well. Your stomach might hurt. I firmly believe that mood is connected. Another thing is depression. So I think I mentioned earlier that depression and food go hand in hand, and a lot of people use food for comfort. But if you're using the wrong food for comfort, it can make things worse, I believe. You know, if you're eating unhealthfully and just digging into Doritos all night long, it's only going to make things worse. But if you're eating well, your body's going to feel well, your energy levels are going to go up. And I do believe that affects your mood for sure. Questions? I've gotten some great questions. I have one. We switched. Okay, so okay, yeah. So okay, whew, this is kind of a political question.
You want me to tell you're amazing.
So the government. Am I going to get followed home after this? So how does the government determine what we eat? I'll tell you how. Money. Yeah. So how much money? It's really an industry-driven thing. The U.S. dietary guidelines are really industry-driven. That's why when I look back at my old presentation, I was very big on the plate. So my plate has been around for a while now. So the pyramid, it used to be your food groups. Remember the different food groups, and then it went to the pyramid, and the pyramid was like so confusing. People were, little guy walking up the side, so confusing. I studied all this in my public health, master's in public health program, but then it switched over to my plate, which looks reasonable, but check it out. There's a section for dairy on there. There doesn't need to be a section for dairy. So I actually was onto that early on, and I was like, okay, calcium fortified food goes there. But then you have like your meat section, and so half is fruits and vegetables, and then a quarter, a little less than a quarter is whole grains. Now they're getting that right, the whole grains, and then meat, and then dairy. So that, you know, I just, the whole thing, plants, and then a little like a side of chicken if you do chicken or fish or something like that. But you don't need dairy. You can do something calcium fortified for that. Make sure your vitamin D is right. Does that answer your question, kind of? Not a big fan of the my plate. So it hasn't evolved? Not really. No, it's still largely driven, although they're looking at the new U.S. dietary guidelines right now. They're getting ready to put the next ones out, and there's a lot of people out there just really pushing for more like vegetarian, plant-based style, like getting away from some of the like they recommend. I think they still recommend cheese and all that too. So.
Also heard
Yeah, so yeah, resveratrol, okay, resveratrol is the nutrient in red wine that people have studied. So if you really want to dig into research, make sure if you find a study, make sure it's recent, but you want to go, and the first thing I want you to do is go down to the bottom of the study and find out who funded the study, okay? because I guarantee you many of the studies on wine were actually funded by the wine industry, okay? Same with like the dairy and anything food related, look at the bottom and make sure that there's no funding there, no conflicts of interest kind of thing, right? But wine, so yeah, they found that resveratrol is beneficial for heart with a glass, right? But you can also get the same nutrient out of grapes. Red grapes, right? They crush grapes and make wine. So just the grapes have the fiber and the water and the nutrients, right? Who's going to drink a glass of wine? One glass. They recommend a glass of wine. Nobody's going to drink a glass of wine. They're probably going to drink 2 or 3, right? And honestly, once you get past a glass, the benefit of the resveratrol just, it's now you're looking at like all kinds of other like cancer, right? Drinking is a proven cancer risk. So that's wine. No. Okay, food recommendations to increase circulation. So you probably don't want to eat foods high in fat and salt and sugar. So I would say plants would probably your best bet. It's all coming back to plants.
Sounding like a broken record.
I know I'm sounding like a broken record. So you're looking at cardiovascular disease, right? Circulation, cardiovascular disease. You're looking at preventing that, and the foods that do that are the foods that are high in water, fiber, and nutrients. So those are the foods that are going to increase. They're going to improve everything, really. They're going to improve your circulation, improve your blood levels, your lipid levels. Question. This is my favorite question. Okay, so this was an issue that was brought up during. So we do a rotation. Is ketchup a fruit or vegetable or not? Ketchup a vegetable or not? Okay, so this question came up when when you're studying to become a dietitian, you have to do this really long internship, not as long as a doctor, but like 7 months. And part of that is food service management, where you have to learn how to like run the show, right? You have to know everything. And I was lucky enough to get a rotation at my kid's school district. And so I worked closely with the director there. And the government, somebody was trying to add ketchup because in order to get funded by the state, for school food service, they need to meet certain requirements, right? And so they need to add a vegetable, they need to add vegetable, they had to watch their saturated fat, their sodium. So they're like, throw ketchup on it, it's a vegetable. And so that was like a huge conspiracy, and no, just no. Yeah, pizza too, like calling pizza a vegetable. Ketchup is made from tomatoes, right? Basically all it is concentrated tomato and sugar. So again, fiber, water, and nutrients. So eat the tomato. It's hard to put on French fries, though. I totally get it. If I were to have homemade French fries or something, I would probably want a little ketchup with my fries. I'm not that strict.
Thank you.
Hey.
Well, I think we have no more questions, and we're going to finish. So again, thank you, Shelly, for taking the time to come out and present. I will definitely send out the slides and make the video.
And I want to give Robert my contact information. I don't mind if you email me questions and things. Stay in touch with me. I love my community. I love everybody that I work with, and this is my life, and I just love it. And I want to thank Robert for letting me talk to you guys again and redeem myself from my last one. I know a little more now, and we'll see what happens in 5 more years. Maybe there will be a food. I don't know. We'll never know.
Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I need a hug from you.